out. First of all, again, I want to personally thank you for the tough job you're doing. It's not easy to defend some of the practices of the United Nations. You can understand, I'm sure, why so many people on both sides of the aisle are frustrated, and why we think that the United Nations needs to be seriously, revamped. You take the Human Rights Council. 42 of 65 country-specific resolutions are anti-Israel. And as has been said by many of my colleagues, some of the worst human rights abusers in the world sit on that Human Rights Council. I'm wondering if you could tell us two things. Number one, the Goldstone Report was rejected on the House floor by this body right after it was passed in the UN. And we rejected it because we said that Israel, it's almost a blood libel, as Shimon Peres said, when they accused Israel of targeting civilians. But yet we know that Hamas targets civilians. In fact, just this morning, the rockets from Gaza hit a school bus, injuring several children, I understand. So we know that Hamas deliberately targets civilians, and therefore Israel has undergone a whole investigation and has come up with the fact that Israel did not target civilians, and that's why Judge Goldstone has repudiated his report. What can we do to make sure that the United Nations repudiates the report? Because there are some in the United Nations that want to go forward with the original Goldstone report as if it were truth, and we now know it isn't. And secondly, the unilateral declaration of a Palestinian state, which I know you ran through the procedure before, that we can veto that, and I hope that we will. And if the UN General Assembly passes it, it may be a political statement, but it has no real effect. I think that this unilateral recognition impedes a peace agreement because it tells the Palestinians that they need not sit down and negotiate, that somehow or other they'll get their state by refusing to negotiate. Israel or any country cannot be put in a position of preconditions to even sitting down and talking. These are very serious issues that will be resolved as final status talks, but not as a precondition. So I just wonder if you could just tell us how we can try to ensure that Goldstone is repealed, as the infamous Zionism is racism resolution was repealed several years ago, and what is the administration doing to combat this terrible anti-Israel bias? Because what you hear, the frustration here, is that people say, well, why should we continue to fund the United Nations when time and time again it comes out against what we think is in the best interest of the United States and our ally Israel? And I know your arguments, which have a lot of credence, in my opinion, that we need to stay and fight, but I'm sure you appreciate how frustrating it gets when we pay the lion's share of things, and then we think we're kind of spit in the face, and our ally Israel is spit in the face. So I've raised a bunch of things. If you can comment on any or all of them, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Engel. And I appreciate the spirit of your questions. As I said earlier, we absolutely have been unequivocal in our condemnation of the substance and conclusions of the Goldstone Report, which we have been very clear on from the outset. We are, as I mentioned earlier, in the process of talking to the closest partners on this about how best, in light of both the subsequent actions that were already in train in different UN bodies as a result of Goldstone and Judge Goldstone's own op-ed in the Washington Post, that we might accelerate our efforts to just put this entire sad episode to bed. And our aim is twofold. One is to prevent follow-up action in the GA, in the Security Council, any referrals to other bodies from materializing. And then secondly, we share your interest in trying to clear the record. Whether that can be done through repudiation, that would require a new resolution of both the Human Rights Council and the General Assembly, or whether there are other procedural mechanisms that we can employ. But the aim is to accomplish that, and we're trying to consult with partners who have a direct stake in this as to how best
Madam
to accomplish these goals.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam Chair, I just want to take 3 seconds to say I also hope that we can get Israel removed from the permanent agenda of the UN Human Rights Council.
Thank you very much.